Hello, this is Scott Taylor, and this is the second stop on my trip to Florida and back. I have about a dozen stops overall, and this time I'm stopping in Gulf Shores, Alabama. My place to stop was at the Alabama Coast RV Park. Now, the thing was, when I got here, the electrical was back on this back fence line, so there was not... I didn't have long enough cord to hook up the electrical. Fortunately, my neighbor that was right next door there, he ran an extension cord over for me, and so I had power, a little bit of power that first night. Went out to Camping World the next day and bought an extension. Also nearby is the first Buc-ee's outside of Louisiana. So I stopped in there because I was curious whether they were going to cover Alabama items instead of Texas items, and that is indeed the case. Also in Foley is the Owa Amusement Park. It's not a very big park, but you know, if you're down this area with family, I think it'd be definitely worth checking out. Then, as typical with all my trips, the very first places I visit if I'm in a new town is to try and find the visitor center or the welcome center and pick up some information in regards to what there is to see in the area, restaurants, things that you need to check out. And in Gulf Shores, there's actually two wonderful info centers. From there, I went over to the Pensacola Naval Base to go visit the Pensacola Lighthouse. Now, to get on to the lighthouse on the naval base, you have to enter from the west entrance. And the lighthouse has great information about how lighthouses work, Fresnel lenses, and just, you know, what it was like living in the 19th century in this lighthouse. You know, there was two separate families that lived here, and you know, they carried oil up from downstairs to the top of the lighthouse every day, and it just gives you good insight onto what life was like back then. Here's the stairway going up, and then once you got up, you got a 360-degree view of everything in the area. This is the tallest building, and so there's no obstructions blocking your view. Then when I got back to the Alabama Coast RV Park, they had a nice little shed in back, and one of the guys had set up a deal to play some live music, so that was a lot of fun. The next morning I got up and I went to Fairhope, Alabama. And the reason I wanted to go to Fairhope, this is where Kyle and Olivia from Drivin' and Vibin', this is their hometown. And so I'd heard a lot about that from watching their channels and having met them out in West Texas. And so I wanted to check out what their hometown was. And then from there I drove up to Mobile, and I went to the Gulf Quest National Maritime Museum of the Gulf of Mexico. And they had a nice flag in there about the Conch Republic of Key West, which I'll spend about a week down there later on. But Mobile is where shipping containers got invented. And so they had a display of, you know, how shipping containers, how the shipping industry worked. You know, Mobile has a large shipyard. And they also had information as far as weather patterns, you know, gave an example of test of a hurricane. But you can go out and see the shipyards, and just a wonderful place. Not too far away is in downtown Mobile is the History Museum of Mobile. And while Gulf Quest, I don't think it was quite worth the money that you went in there. Might be if you had a family. There's some good things there that, at my age just weren't that interesting. But I definitely feel that the History Museum is worth checking out. They had a lot of old stagecoaches, talked about the history of Mobile, how it doubled in size during World War II, the history of slavery, and how the blacks were treated in the area. And then upstairs they had a room with about a dozen different miniature houses. And these were created by Aaron Friedman. And just absolutely exquisite detail and definitely fantastic. They also had information on local celebrities, sports stars. And then they had a special exhibit there for Mardi Gras and had lots of the costumes that people wore to the balls. And the crews in Mobile are different than you'd find in New Orleans. Mobile has the Order of the Incas, the Order of Osiris, the Knights of Revelry, comic cowboys, and all this is very different from Rex and Bacchus and Zulu and the crews that you will find in New Orleans. But this exhibit had some just wonderful, wonderful dress. They had a death mask of Napoleon there. And then on the way out of town, you could stop and look at the Uss Alabama. I just stopped and took some pictures from the outside. I have not been in, taken a tour of it. I'd done enough climbing around in Galveston and Corpus Christi that I didn't necessarily need to walk around another battleship at this point in time. My last morning, I went up to the Drowsy Poet. Now, the Drowsy Poet there in Foley, and there's, I guess, 6 different ones there in the Pensacola area. And then also in Fairhope, there was a pizza place called Ravenite Pizza Place. And so it just made me wonder whether there was some tie to Edgar Allan Poe in the area. Then down by the ocean is the Alabama's Gulf State Park. Just an absolutely gorgeous park, lots of hiking, biking trails. They have a RV park there, as I said, and just right next to the Gulf. So definitely absolutely gorgeous. Can't say anything else. Just beware of alligators. Then I went back over to the Pensacola Naval Yard and went to the National Museum of Naval Aviation. And this museum is just huge. They have every single type of aircraft you could talk about, going from hot air balloons all the way up into space flight. So, you just got planes that you'd never seen before. This is the original Skylab, I think it was Skylab 2. And then they also had an art gallery with art about aviation and the Navy, and just lots to see here. I think I spent several hours in there. But Pensacola and the naval base there, that's home to the Blue Angels. And as I say, that is probably one of the best, if not the best, aviation museum in the country. Then I just drove around a little bit more, checked out the shoreline, checked out the beach. and just enjoyed my time in Gulf Shores, Alabama. I definitely would like to go back there and spend some more time in the future. Anyway, that's it for this stop. Thank you for joining me, and I will talk to you soon.